Welcome to Networking RX, a podcast devoted to helping business professionals like you enhance your networking skills in order to become more proficient giving and receiving quality business referrals and improving the overall quality of your life and the lives of those around you. The Networking RX podcast is a production of AmSpirit Business Connections, an organization whose mission is to empower business success through networking.
Picture an orchestra just before a performance. Every musician is talented, every instrument is tuned. But until someone steps onto the podium, raises the baton, and gives a clear signal, all you have is noise waiting to happen. Connection works the same way. Talent alone doesn't create harmony. Proximity doesn't create trust. It takes intention, timing, and someone who understands how the individual parts come together to create something bigger than themselves. Today's guest lives in that space where connections stop being accidental and start to become purposeful, if you will. My guest today, David Homan, is the author of Orchestrating Connections. He's a connector, best-selling author of the book is Orchestrating Connections: How to Build Purposeful Community in a Tribal World. Actually, he's the co-author. And fittingly, he's also a classical composer who understands how relationship works, where everybody plays their part in a larger role. He helps people build relationships at the speed of trust, create meaningful connections on purpose, and recognize the difference between collaborators and takers, those icky takers, before it costs people time, energy, and momentum. So really want to welcome you to the program today, David. Let's talk connections. You're a dad. You're in New York, dealing with the weather. We're recording this in late January, in the midst of the tail end of a snowstorm, a freezing event. We're all cold. So, welcome.
Thank you. And if you choose to live in cold weather, you can't really complain about cold weather.
No, yeah.
Same way when friends were like, it's so hot in Florida. I was like, yeah, but you choose to live there. You can complain about it being cold there.
Yep. I grew up in northern Michigan, about 4 hours north of Green Bay. They get about 300 inches of snow a year. People are like, oh my God. People choose to live there because they love winter. So, there we are. Anyhow.
And we could choose where we live, and then at some point we realize it chose us. Unless we decide we have that audacity to figure out our lives a little differently. Mm-hmm. And everywhere we go, we crave the same thing that you and I know especially with your incredible podcast, know, which is it takes community to feel like you've grounded somewhere, not just that you like the cold or you like the warmth.
Yeah. People will ask me, if you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be? Wherever my kids are. I don't care. I just want to be by my kids. I don't need to be in Florida. I don't need this. I don't need that. I just want to be by my kids. So
I love that. My family, we all left Florida, where I did grow up.
Okay.
I went to New York. My sister's in North Carolina. My brother's in California. And that just left my parents with a lot of beautiful trips out of hot Florida.
Yeah.
To springs and winters everywhere else.
Yeah. Sounds great. Give us the story. Tell us, how you got into this. You wrote this book. Awesome. Got a copy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
When everyone thinks about their story, everyone loves to tell that super glossed up social media version that just props themselves up and makes them seem like they know everything. Every part of what people now consider brilliant that I do have been horrible mistakes I've made. Absolute idiocy running around New York, spending money I don't have and trying to figure out what works. And honestly, this larger journey that started when I was a kid of never feeling like I fit in anywhere because I never had just one circle of friends. And as a composer in particular, classical composer, most people I meet, even in New York, will go, I've never met one before.
Interesting.
And the answer always is, well, yes, that's true. You only celebrate us after we die. And the goal is to just keep doing it till 60. At that point, everyone will go, great, you did it till 60. It's a different measurement, even though people have, recorded my music worldwide, performed it. You can find me on the radio. So I knew that my world wasn't going to be purely music.
Right.
And that journey, while trying to make it in New York, is what led me to found my community, Orchestrated Connecting, eventually turned that into this book, methodology around how to connect with purpose and intent. And a larger world, it's now a startup, public speaking, international events, and me being somebody who has a great degree of trust amongst people who often don't trust many people because people always want something from them.
Okay. Writing a note here. So I guess the one thing, and you just for our guests, I have people fill out an intake form, and the one thing I really want to kind of spend some time on is spotting takers.
Yeah.
Um, that's that's something I've never really dug into. I think it's something that's really important. I talk about it in the introduction that we tend to waste a whole lot of time heading down that path and realizing it's the wrong path. This is the wrong person. Um, and I joke about it with my wife. There have been people in my life where it's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I invested not years, um, but time with people professionally, where it's like, oh my gosh, that was a waste.
I used to think, especially after reading Give or Take, there was
Mhm.
one type of taker.
Yeah,
And that was the blatant one, Frank. That was
yeah,
the one who literally comes in, ramrods over you, and wants something from you as if they deserve it.
yeah,
Then I realized every other variation was somebody who was costing me time, diminishing my reputation, or seemingly helping me, but really being self-serving. And
yeah,
that's why in the book, as my co-author Noah and I got through the book, he's like, "Well, what does this end with?" And I was like, "It ends with what everyone actually likes, which is not just how to spot a taker, but to know the difference between them." And I'm happy to give a couple of examples. I mean, the most notable one for every woman listening is a taker called the dick. It doesn't only appear for women, but I don't think there's a single female friend I have met in my life who's gone to a conference but hasn't met a man who, under the pretense of doing business, wants to get in their pants,
yeah,
takes their time, demeans them in many cases, makes them uncomfortable or worse. And we excuse this behavior because often that person has means, they have power, they have a title, as if they could have one action that's negative and then be positive for somebody else we know. And I feel that unless you call it all out, every variation of it, you don't
yeah,
train people to look out for themselves or the people they love and trust.
yeah. You make a good point that there are the blatant takers out there, and they're easy to spot. Um, and if you've been around this long enough, you kind of have a spidey sense about it. Um, I mean, I get LinkedIn requests, and it's like, yeah, I know where this is headed. I know
Yeah.
exactly where this is headed.
But you know that person you've known for 7, 8 years, you can't really remember. And every time they come into your hometown, they ask you for coffee.
Yeah,
And you decide, okay, well, I haven't really seen them in a year. You meet them for coffee. 10 minutes into an hour-long meeting, because that's the associate of what you do for an in-person meeting still, you don't know why you're meeting with them. Your
yeah,
time is being wasted. You're missing it from your podcast, your business, your kids.
yeah,
The joke is they know where to get really good coffee. That's the thing that they do know well. Um, but they waste your time every single time. I call that taker the nebulous nomad because you don't know how they live, you don't know what they do, you don't know why they're taking your time, and you think it as subtle until something happens where you lose time or you meet somebody through them who's even worse of that type of energy vampire.
yeah,
And the minute you start to lose hours of your time every week, you start to pay attention to who's making you lose it.
yeah. No, I mean, that's a good point. I'm just thinking about something today, same sort of thing. Hey, I've had people who will say, we should talk every month, every quarter. Let's make a point of talking every quarter. And you'll get through you get through one session and you don't feel great about it because it's like, okay, that was a lot about them. But
Mhm.
it's a sample size of one, so I don't really want to draw any conclusions. And then you get to the second, and it's more of the same. But you can draw a line between any 2 points, and so you kind of almost excuse that until you get to that third meeting, and then you realize, you know what? Every single one of these interactions is me listening to them, me hearing about them, me, their tale of woe or the great things that are happening for them, and realizing they are never really interested in what you're up to, what you're about, what you might need.
No, but don't you feel really great just validating people who take your time and give nothing back? I mean, this is like this, but this is the world. People connect.
Yeah.
They think it's appropriate to take your time without paying you or paying it forward or asking much about you. And every time you take more time, it makes them feel good as if they're doing something right.
Mm-hmm.
It's confirming that negative behavior.
Yeah.
And I used to think, right, because I run a global network of connectors. It's 2,500 people in 187 cities and 35 countries. And almost everyone on my network comes in thinking they're the most connected person they've ever met. And I smile. I'm not. I just built a
Yeah.
system for us all to connect and support each other. So I study this and I look at what happens and what we fall prey to. And I used to think, well, it's just about noticing who's taking your time, who's taking your energy. And then I realized it's actually on us, everyone listening, every connector, everyone who lets that person, maybe not the second call, but by the third time, by the fourth time, it conforms that what they're doing is okay.
Yeah.
It's the same way when people will just blatantly write me and say, meet my friend so and so, you can help them raise money. You can connect them with this person. You used to work for Ray Dalio, send an intro, as if I gave them an opt in, which I did not, as if I agreed that somebody I know and trust would agree to talk to them without me writing them. And they treat it like it's okay. In my network now, because I live by a rule-based system, if you do that, you don't get to come anymore. You have to abide by this respect of somebody else's time and the power of their network. And if you don't, then not only shame on you, but there needs to be a consequence for it, which people used to hate me for. Now they find it liberating because then I have no takers.
I agree. I agree. It's it can seem hardcore, but you're right. You start to lose time from people. And I know I need to do a better job of it. It's not that I do a bad job. I sometimes give people, I don't spot them early enough, I guess is what I'm saying. And I need to do a better job of trying to spot people and just know. For example, one of the things I do, I was talking about this yesterday. I don't do first meetings locally. I don't do coffee. If I'm meeting somebody for the first time, I won't do coffee. They could be a half mile away. I'm sorry. it's just, let's do a Zoom call. This is really simple. It's 15 minutes for an initial consultation or initial conversation and see where it goes. And if it's worthwhile after that, then great. Most times it becomes, okay, I can see where you're headed. Here's a couple people I think you need to meet. Let me make a couple introductions for you or not. And that'll be the end of it. But to have a cup of coffee is 90 minutes. You're in New York. I mean, that's probably a half a day to sit down and meet with somebody for a cup of coffee.
Even when you batch it in the area you're in, it's a considerable amount of time unless you're literally holding court in a coffee shop.
Yeah.
And there are probably a few exceptions for people or I know where if they say, hey, go meet Linda for coffee, you'll do it.
Yeah.
Even without that opt-in. But most people, they need the right framing and intention. So there's two sides of this, right? Like to solve the first problem of, it's not doing a better job of filtering people out. For me, it's always about doing a better job of being more intentional and purposeful of what you're after.
Yeah.
So the person can opt in for it. The other filter for this is actually to be vulnerable. I had a couple people ask for meetings in early January. And I wrote them and I said, listen, this is my first week of being back to the office after my father passing away.
Yeah.
I am not sure how much I have capacity for. Can this wait? 10 people wrote me back and said, I'm so sorry to hear about your dad. Please take whatever time you need. 2 people wrote me back and said, how's Thursday? I didn't meet with those 2 people because if somebody says they lost their dad, then by being vulnerable, if a human's on the other side, that's the human you want to talk to. If somebody is opportunistic and literally glosses over this because you said you might be free, that's for me the greatest filter. And it's what I expect of people. I don't always share everything to that level, but this was a raw moment where I hadn't been functional for months and I still needed to exist in this world. But people are surprised how much vulnerability is a filter, even though they don't think it should be in
Yeah.
business in particular.
Yeah.
But our life is our life. If your kid is sick or you have a grandkid coming and you're not sure when, the person who writes back and goes, "Oh, I can't wait to hear," is it, how are they doing, worth the time? The person who glosses over it literally is showing you that they're looking to work through you for something they need, not work with you for something you can do together.
Yeah. I have made it a practice of, well, when COVID hit, I was scheduled back to back to back to back to back, right? And that was kind of a badge of honor. How many calls did you do? I did 15. You only did 12, you slacker.
Yeah.
And after a while, I realized just the level of burnout with that. Conversations were running into one, and I couldn't remember what was going on. I didn't have time between conversations to follow up or notes or anything. And what that evolved into is just like, you know what? I can't, 12 a day is ridiculous. One a day is fine. I've got lots to do in my business. You have lots to do in your business. And what I ultimately started to do was just create my schedule. So if somebody wanted to get on my calendar, it was going to be a week to 10 days. So I know, today we're recording, it's Wednesday. I know what I'm doing next Wednesday. It's locked.
Mhm.
And unless it's something where it's somebody who's really saying, hey, you really need to talk to this person, they're going to, I'm having a call. Why don't you jump in? It's next Wednesday. Fine. I'll make time. Or maybe it's a sales opportunity. Then I'll make time. But if it's hey, I want to get acquainted with you. Here's my link. I'm sorry. It's going to be a week to 10 days before you're going to be able to find something.
Yeah.
But that just allows me the space to be ready, to look into them and, okay, what's this conversation about? Who are they about? So I don't know.
Yeah. But the person who'd be offended by that or make you feel judged is somebody who also shows the window of being opportunistic.
Yeah.
It's also, if something's that urgent, then why you? Because what it should be is urgent for you, not through you.
Yeah.
And that other telltale sign, because I'm always busy 2 to 3 weeks out sometimes.
Yeah.
And when I say to somebody, hey, like, Frank, what are you doing next week? And you go, it's wide open. That is a glaring sign.
Yes.
If it's all wide open, then you're not purposeful, intentional. You're certainly not doing anything. You might have enough means to do that. But if I had enough means to do that, I'd be doing something intentional.
Yeah.
Not trying to figure out my purpose through somebody else's wisdom.
Yeah. I get a kick out of somebody will contact me and say, hey, you have time for coffee tomorrow. You have time for a call tomorrow. It's like, and now if it's one of my franchisees, sure. But if it's just kind of a random sort of a thing, it's like, no, I don't, I used to operate that way when I first started out. I used to be an attorney. I had lots of time on my hand. I go to, it's 11:15. Yeah, I'll meet you for lunch. But now it's like, yeah, I'll meet you for lunch, but it's got to be next week. I'm just not being mean about it, but I'm scheduled. And I never feel bad about people who will say, yeah, I'm really sorry. It's going to be a couple weeks. It's like, don't apologize. It just means you're doing things. You're successful.
And the irony is, right, there are two other people having a parallel conversation like us who are in agreement, but they are actually completely upset that people aren't just available for them all the time, even though they don't want people to think they're available all the time, or they have a filter. And that's like when somebody asks you for coffee and they don't say why.
Yeah.
Shame on them. Like if you say, hey, I'd like to take your time. You need to drive somewhere and meet me. I'd like to talk to you about X. Or I read your book on this. I'm having a struggle in my business with Y. Would you sit down with me? Like when we ask consent and show intention, people will often break their rules.
Yeah.
Especially if they've had a pre-call or we feel that there's trust. but people can smell it coming a mile away, and that they act like they're not the one making it smell when they need something from somebody else. And that duplicity is why I try to call all this out. Every variation of a taker, every variation I can think of so far, what makes somebody a really positive connector, not just somebody who makes 1,000 intros, a super connector, or convenes and holds events. There's so many varieties of what the essence of human interaction is. And to find value in it is to call out what is valuable. And to give us more efficiency with it is to call out the behavior that I think none of us should tolerate. Because when you do something that's self-serving, you're not connecting with somebody. You were literally just serving yourself,
Yeah.
taking from somebody, often taking from multiple people.
Yeah. Let's shift gears here. Talk about your organization. Talk about your group. Talk about types of people you're looking for. I'm sure you run the risk or have the challenge of a lot of people feeling like they belong and probably don't. I don't know. I could share about your group, how it got
Yeah.
started.
So little old me, 10 years ago, had accidentally built of now what I know is a network of connectors. I didn't know it. I'd been sitting on it for 5 years, and I was the first call by everyone on my network who was a superstar in their world, connector, CEO, billionaire, whatever it might be. And if they thought of something they couldn't think of for themselves or somebody else, they called me first. I ran an arts foundation.
Mm.
I wasn't in marketing. I wasn't in sales. I wasn't in family office. I wasn't in sports, but I knew the person who knew the right person. And I realized all these people were connectors. That term was becoming prominent, but really we just said we didn't network, we did it differently. And I realized for 5 years I'd failed to do one thing, which was connect those people together with trust. If you are a master of your ecosystem, you know your network, then by default, you're limited by the network you've built. You've built your own bubble. Started to connect, started with 40 people. Now I'm at over 200 events. It is a global network. It's called Orchestrated Connecting. But I built a filter to start this, Frank. To be in my community, you have to be a self-described connector, and you have to be an action-oriented, natural giver that I would leave my children with. And if you want to bring somebody in, you have to be willing to leave my children sight unseen with somebody I've not yet met, or they cannot come into this group. So it's not about access. It's not about fame. There's a huge amount of all of that. It's, do you spend your time being curious enough about others to constantly make intros? Maybe have everyone else question what the use of always connecting people is without an expectation of return. And now this is the largest group on the planet purely of connectors. It is a dumb business. I charge no membership fees. I take no sponsorship for my events. I do events at cost. Currently in 10 cities plus virtual, but it's a network that goes from New York to Perth to Hong Kong to Mexico City and all in between. In it was a goal, get out of the way so I can get people to the right people. So now, besides those stats, there are thousands of useful introductions made every year. The methodology works for people who are oftentimes the thought leaders in connection, because I didn't hone their game for how they help other people. I honed the game for how they help themselves. I'm launching a startup called SOAR Connect, SOAR standing for Strength of Authentic Relationships, later this spring. Conferences, events, everything with this goal. Who's the person sitting that I trust that can get you to somebody you should trust to transform your business, transform what you need? And can I create enough trust with you to be willing to ask that into this network of networks? So that's what the world is. I also have a major ballet being premiered this March, working on a movie with a producer. So I keep my creative side busy, and the network continues to grow. And so I'm always looking for other connectors, people who get that, who don't think it's just handing out a business card or just having one type of person in their world. Every year, the network grows by 300 to 500 new people now.
Awesome. Sounds great. Someone listening, how can they get a hold of you? How can they apply to be part of this?
So the easiest way to apply to be part
Hmm.
It's if somebody were to use existing social media worlds to figure out who they know that might know me. Because this is a referral based network. If
Yep.
everyone says they're a connector and I have to take 1,000 calls, I can't actually be effective for the network.
I like it.
But if they were
Yeah.
refer to this podcast and maybe say, hey, I've read at least 4 of Frank's books now. Let's make 4 the minimum because you've done a lot. Then I'd say, all right, I'll take your call because you've supported Frank
Yeah.
and I want to support you. So to search me, orchestratedconnecting.com, orchestrating connection, every variation of it is this world of my name in the world orchestrated. If you take my last name and put the word music next to it, you can hear a lot of my music on iTunes and Spotify and Amazon and everywhere else, including what my now 11-year-old constantly jokes with people at. She's like, listen, it's so easy to hear my dad's music. Hey, Alexa, play the music of David Homan. And then it just plays. I made this all out there, but I've made this extremely forward thinking and intentional. That's how I will connect with people. I want the story of each of us in this world of not networking, but doing something a little different and bigger than ourselves. I want to support that entire world of people. I think there's more than 2,500, but it's hand curated. There's
Gotcha.
I've never talked to you before. Now you come to my events and you get to meet other people. I have to have control because this is an upper echelon of communities.
I really appreciate your time today. This has been great. Lot to think about. And hopefully people will reach out, connect with you through other people. I guess probably the best way. I'll read my books. There we go. I love that. But thank you for your time.
My pleasure, Frank. And thank you, everyone, for listening. But I really appreciate the work you do in this shared space that we have.
Thanks for joining us on the Networking RX podcast. Please put what you've learned into action today and let us know if you have questions, comments, or ideas for future topics. You can email them to us at podcast@amspirit.com. That's AMSPIRIT.com. Finally, so you never miss an episode, be sure to subscribe to the Networking RX podcast through iTunes, Overcast, or however you receive your podcasts. Now get out and network with someone.
The Networking RX podcast is the copyright production of AmSpirit Business Connection. All rights reserved.